Hello and welcome back to Life's Biggest Questions. I'm Ron Mackenzie Lafergie. Since the election of Donald Trump, US-Mexican relations have been rather tense. The hitherto impotent rallying cry to build that wall is not exactly the diplomatic decision of the decade. But what would happen if Mexico decided they'd had enough and mounted an attack on the United States? Let's explore. If you're looking for more what-if questions, check out the biggest what-ifs playlist on the channel. Now get ready, it's time to ask the question, what if Mexico invaded the United States? If you saw our video on what if Canada invaded America, you may have some idea of how this will go. That is to say, Mexico would have a bad time. You can simply look at the military budgets of the two countries to see how easy this would be for the US. Mexico has a military budget of roughly 10 billion American dollars, while the US has 68 times that, with a budget of $682 billion. So really, we could probably just stop this video right here, but just for fun, let's look at some of the other factors. One disadvantage Mexico would have is that their border with the United States is relatively small compared to the US-Canada border. This means that there would be less ground for the Americans to defend, making it even more difficult to mount an attack on land. While Canada may have had a small advantage in that they could choose where to attack from, Mexico would be funneled through a relatively small area, thus likely wouldn't be able to successfully invade the US by land. This leaves two options, the air and the sea. Unfortunately, they would be massively outmanned in both areas. In the air, the US has a heavy advantage. In 2017, the United States had a total aircraft strength of 13,762, compared to Mexico's 452, roughly 30 times the power in the air. So it looks like an air attack is out of the question. But what about the sea? Surprisingly, this is one of the areas where Mexico is closest to the US in terms of firepower. In 2017, the US was measured at 415 naval military assets compared to Mexico's 143. With less than 3 times the firepower, the US actually isn't as far ahead as they are in other areas. But on the other hand, to put it another way, they have almost 3 times the naval assets. Plus, it should be noted that aircraft can engage in naval warfare as well, which means the US air superiority would make this an even more one-sided fight. So, outmanned on land, air, and sea. What other option is there? Say it with me, nuclear weapons. This is essentially the only way that Mexico could do any real damage to the US. However, Mexico has historically been in strong opposition of nuclear weapons. In 1967, Mexico signed the Treaty of Tlatelolco. Goodness, was that difficult for my dumb Canadian tongue to say. This treaty stated that they would not manufacture nuclear weapons. And more recently, in 2010, the government of Mexico turned over their highly enriched uranium to the US in exchange for a less enriched form that couldn't be used to make weapons. All this is to say that Mexico would be reluctant to use, and likely lacks the resources to make, nuclear weapons against the United States. And even if they did, they would be in for a world of hurt. All this is ignoring one glaring fact that puts this matter completely to bed. If Mexico attacked the US, they would be breaking so many alliances that the world would come crashing down on them. Even if the US didn't deal with them immediately, which they probably could, other allies of the United States would step in and make sure peace was returned. An attack on the US would be suicide, both for the soldiers and for the country as a whole. And now we return to our question, what if Mexico invaded the United States? Well, the bottom line is Mexico would lose badly. Heavily outmanned in the air, land, and sea, and lacking the nuclear capabilities to be a threat on that front, Mexico would be throwing rocks at a skyscraper. And that's not to mention the fact that NATO would step in and squash any attack pretty quickly. On the bright side, an attack from Mexico is roughly as likely as Donald Trump bringing about world peace. That is to say, it just won't happen. Thank you for watching Life's Biggest Questions. I hope this was interesting and informative, and maybe even inspired you to look into it further on your own. If you like this video, please thumbs up and subscribe to the channel down below. While you're down there, let me know what you think about the wall. Until next time, I'm Ron Mackenzie Lafergie with Life's Biggest Questions, wishing you the best of luck on your quest for answers.